Hey everyone, welcome to Dixie Belle's YouTube channel. I'm Sarah from Birds of a Feather, and you can find more content over on our channel, Birds of a Feather. Today I couldn't be more excited. Dixie Belle has just launched a brand new paint line called Terra Clay Paint. To test out these new Terra Clay paints, I'm going to be working on this fork and spoon set. This has been scuff sanded, it's cleaned. So what I'm going to be starting with is cerulean blue. Now what I love about these new containers is that the lids are plastic, so they're not going to rust on you. And look at that gorgeous color. Now when the paint is wet, it is darker, it does dry lighter, and then when you top coat it, Dixie Belle does have an oil-based wax, which unfortunately I didn't get, so I can't try it for this project. But you can also clear coat it with a Terra matte product that Dixie Belle is also coming out with. It'll be interesting to give those a try when I do have them. It's a nice thick consistency. I'm going to go in with my Dixie Belle Mini here. I'm just going to mist the brush, and I'm going to go ahead and spread it out. Now this is only the first coat. You will need multiple coats for coverage on most colors. Now you might be wondering about what the difference is between the different lines of Dixie Belle paints. Dixie Belle has chalk mineral paint, a line of silk paints. Now silk paint has a built-in top coat, and it also has a stain blocker, like a primer element to it. So you don't even have to seal it. It's just an all-in-one product. Very easy to use, just grab and go. And that's basically for finishes that you just want to do a finish where it's one color. Whereas with the Terra, you can layer the paint, and as I mentioned, you can wet distress back. So I'm going to apply this first coat, and then I'm going to add multiple different layers. Now it does take 2 hours in between coats to dry. So I'm going to do my first coat, let it dry, and then I'll come back and I'm going to layer colors on top of this. Look how gorgeous that color is. Just going to spray again. I'm just using whatever's on the lid here. Now just to continue on about the differences between the different lines of paint, with the chalk mineral paint, as long as you allow it to cure for 30 days, you don't have to top coat that either. Now the Terra paint, the Terra Clay paint on the other hand, you absolutely have to seal it because you can reactivate it with water, and until it's sealed, you can play with it to your heart's content. You can keep layering, you can wet distress. It's much more of an artisan paint, but you do have to seal it. To get in between these fork tines here, I've got my Dixie Belle artist brush, and this is just the flat, and I'm just getting right in there and moving the paint around. Don't know if you can see that on camera. This area is still wet and this area is drying. You can see the difference between the dry color and the wet. Once you seal that with wax, it will deepen up again to how it looks when it's wet. Now if you want to get into some of these deeper carvings, like on the side here, you can just stipple right into it. It does not self-level, so you can have fabulous texture. You can cross hatch, you can put this on with spatulas, any tool you can think of. You can just have fun and play with it. So again, here in these grooves, I'm just going to stipple that right in, spread it out. Now this is a bit slower going with an artist brush, and I found that the Dixie Belle Mini is much faster, and you can also stipple it in. So it's really up to you as to what your preference is, what tools you want to use. But this flat brush just seems to get into these grooves a little bit better. And this is just clean up with soap and water, so I'm not too worried about using a bunch of different tools because cleanup is going to be a breeze. Now let's just check out here. Now as you can see, I couldn't get in too well with my Dixie Belle Mini, but I can just touch that up and get into all those deep grooves and carvings. Now it helps to move it around with just a little bit of water on your brush, and you'll be able to get right in there. Now it could very well be that you want to leave some of the wood showing, and that's perfectly fine too. Actually, when I'm wet distressing, I can distress right back to wood if I wish. So if you don't want to see the wood when you finish your project, then you might want to coat with something like a chalk mineral paint or a silk paint, because that doesn't reactivate with water. So when you wet distress back to those layers, that's the layer you're going to see if you go that far. But you have a lot of control over just how far back you want to distress with this paint. You can distress as much or as little as you like. So I'll just finish up the handle here, and then I'm going to flip this over and do the back. Honestly, you guys, this paint is so much fun. It's like being a kid again. And I don't even mind getting it on my hands. It's totally washable. You do want to let it dry for 2 hours so that you can go ahead and layer on more colors. I love the convenience of this Lazy Susan because I can turn my work and get at it from all the angles here. This mini angle brush, it's the Dixie Belle Mini. It actually comes angled and flat. They're both excellent. They're both really good all-purpose brushes, but I especially love the Mini because you can get into angles and crevices just with that tip. Okay, I think I've got everything. And again, we are layering it, so we will get further coverage on second coats. You can see some of the wood is peeking through here, but that's not a problem because even if I were to do a solid color here, I would need 2 coats anyways. But since I am layering it with different colors, I'm going to move on to a different color for my next coat. Or maybe several different colors. I don't even know what I'm doing yet, I'm just playing. I'm going to replace my lid here, and I'm just going to get a rubber mallet and just like bang that down so that it's sealed nice and tight. And we'll be back in 2 hours for further coats. So I'm just going to take a bunch of colors here. I'm going to start off with this pistachio color. I'm just going to take some off of the lid, and I'm just going to dry brush it. I think I'm going to take some of this daffodil. I'm going to do the same thing. Look at that gorgeous, intense color. That's daffodil. Just beautiful. I'm just going to dip in. And instead of offloading onto the paper towel, I'm just going to offload on this plastic lid. And that's so if I want to reactivate this paint and dip in, I can do that. Let's try a little bit of marigold. Okay, now I'm going to open up the malachite here. I'm going to do a wash. I just mixed daffodil, malachite, and what was the other color I had on there? It was, I believe, the marigold. So I've just watered it down. Just rinsing that off. And some water here. A little more daffodil. I'm going to rinse that off so I can water that down. Going to add some more water to this. Get it nice and runny. I'm just going to wash it on. I'm just streaking all the colors together. I'm just going to wipe this back. I'm going to see what the bougainvillea looks like. Wow, that's a stunning pink color. Let's just add a little bit of this. So I'm just creating some washes here. And as you can see, I've added just a little bit too much water there, and I've come right back to wood. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to have to touch that up. So let's bring the camera around. And here you go. Now you can see how easy it is to wet distress back to the bare wood. So I'm going to have to let that dry and touch that up in about 2 hours or so. As a last touch, I'm just putting a wash of Lanny's Lagoon just over the faces here. I've done the bottom too. I'm just going to continue doing that. And again, the brush is pretty wet. The paint is loose. Lightly brush over. That's just going to provide a little bit of highlight. And I'm taking just the tiniest amount on the brush. Just putting it in here and mixing it up with the water. But I've got a little bit of water in there, just a very tiny bit. I'm just going to lightly brush over. And all I want to do is highlight the face and some of these raised areas. I'm really happy with that now. I think that's pretty. So just dry brushing the sides here. These are just gorgeous and so pigmented. Now I do have to let this dry. I'm going to let it dry overnight before I clear coat it. It must be top coated, so I'll show you the before as it is now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and coming along with us on our journey to feather a nest one upcycle at a time. We're from the channel Birds of a Feather and would love it if you drop by to subscribe after subscribing to Dixie Belle's channel. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in some of the products that we used, I'll leave links down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe